Hi, welcome to CACEIS Talk Series. I'm pleased to be presenting a new fintech on the CACEIS Connect Store. My name is Scott Foster, head of unit at the 3D team, the product team of CACEIS. I'm pleased to be joined by Arne Zeidler, co-founder and CEO of ZEIDLER Group, a legal tech firm. I believe we were talking earlier, you have around 30 qualified lawyers within the organization, and you're broadly equipped with a tech stack and a tech team that's really trying to use AI throughout your processes and build sort of value-added products and solutions for the asset management industry and the fund distribution industry as well. So really excited to be here today to present this new fintech, this new edition on the CACEIS Connect Store. Before we get into all of the details and a really exciting demo of all of the tools, I just wanted to highlight the agenda that we have on today. We're going to reintroduce the CACEIS Connect Store. What is it? What is the concept? And how it can help you, CACEIS clients, leverage your data and leverage the partners and the fintech partners who are on that ecosystem. And then we'll go into all of the details about how you can visualize all the apps, how you can get access to the apps, before we then get into ZEIDLER Group and what it is, what it does, and how it can help you with your fund distribution challenges today. So without further ado, let's get the presentation started. So as a reminder, what is the Connect Store? As mentioned, the CACEIS Connect Store is a fintech marketplace of applications which can leverage all of your data that you have at CACEIS to really provide sort of value-added client solutions at your fingertips. So it's a really seamless and plug-and-play ability for you to unlock your data and unlock all of your sort of fund distribution challenges in the case of ZEIDLER Group through the CACEIS Connect Store. Where can you find it? It's on OLIS. If you have that client portal, if you have that client dashboard OLIS, which you should as a CACEIS client, you'll have direct access to all of these fintech applications. And as mentioned, it's a part of our medium-term plan. It's a part of our data as a service strategy. And we're here to really add value beyond core custody, beyond fund administration, really unlocking data and bringing that data to life through these value-added tools and services. So really a quick reminder there on what the CACEIS Connect Store is. How does it work? The CACEIS Connect Store works in two ways. CACEIS basically partner with fintechs, regtechs, legal tech companies, and integrates them onto the OLIS platform, onto the CACEIS Connect Store webpage. There are two ways of connecting with CACEIS clients. There's a business introduction model and a partnership there, where we are simply sort of advertising and promoting new fintechs, legal tech companies on this platform. And as well as that, there's a Connect Store services model where our partners and these vendors are able to really tap into the data that we have as a fund administrator, custodian bank, onto the services and the platform that these vendors are offering. So one, a very high level introduction to how does it work, a very high level sort of distribution model through the business introduction, and as well as that on the Connect Store services, a more sort of integrated IT connectivity, data connectivity point there. And the whole idea here is that it's easy and seamless for you as a client to access your data, to access these new fintech solutions and really get going and really add value to your day-to-day processes and make your challenges a bit more easier. And so where can you find it? As mentioned on screen, you can see here a screenshot of where the Connect Store is. The Connect Store is accessible at the top menu of OLIS, and here you can see a web page of where all the sort of catalogs of fintechs are. And on each of these fintechs, you can press and learn more. And when you go onto the Learn More page, you have a dedicated web page to each of these fintech solutions. So description, pricing, product sheets, screenshots, and as well as that, how to contact and how to subscribe to said fintech or regtech or legal tech. There will also be information about pricing there, just so that you can have a broad overview as to, a rough indication of how much it would cost to start to use these solutions via the CACEIS Connect Store. So going on to the next slide, let's say we subscribed, we're happy to join that vendor for a particular solution. Where can I find and how can I access this solution? So on this page here, you can see My Apps, and here you'll be able to visualize and gain direct access to the platform, the fintech application, the website, whatever you have subscribed to. And on that, you'll be able to seamlessly plug and play all of your client data via this subscribed application, available on the page, as you can see on screen, available via My Apps. And that's all organized by CACEIS. All the IT project work, connectivity is done by the CACEIS team in partnership and collaboration with the vendor. And we really work in a sort of seamless single sign-on protocol so that you can directly access and leverage all of your client data live on OLIS. So what does the Connect Store look like today? As you can see on screen, 7 value-added services and solutions on the CACEIS Connect Store. A full range of applications here, some ranging from ESG data to regulatory reporting support, to front office support as well. And so, you can browse and see live today on the Connect Store what's available, how these solutions can help your day-to-day processes. And I'm pleased to be, here today with Arne Zeidler, a new addition to our CACEIS Connect Store ecosystem. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
And I think you're going to give a quick overview as to what ZEIDLER Group is, how you guys came about, and what 3, I think, products we're excited to add to the Connect Store today that I think will really add value to CACEIS clients through this new partnership with ZEIDLER Group. So thank you very much, everybody, as a quick introduction. And Arne, over to you.
Do you want to move to the next slide?
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Scott. So we are a ZEIDLER Group, and what makes us unique is that we are a combination of a law firm and a legal technology business. So roughly 50% of what we do is law, and the other 50% is legal technology. And we are exclusively focused on the asset management industry. So as a law firm and also with our legal tech products, it's all about asset managers and investment funds. If you go to the next slide, I keep the presentation here very brief so that we can jump into the demo very soon. But here are just a few numbers about our firm. So we were founded in 2008 in Frankfurt. And today we have 10 offices with a little over 90 people working in these 10 different locations. And with our services, we cover more than 80 jurisdictions. So that's another, I would say, specialty of us as a firm, that we have a very strong focus on cross-border matters. And we help clients with answering these cross-border questions when it comes to distributing funds and investment products on a global scale. We have a little over 250 clients, and that actually brings me to the last slide of the presentation. Here's a brief overview. So this is, of course, just an excerpt. I think it's not sharing on the main screen. There it is. So just a few selected clients here. So you can see that it ranges from boutique managers like Zeidler Investment Management, and it goes all the way to companies like Invesco. That's pretty much us as a firm. I'm a lawyer, so I look at everything from a legal perspective. But what we're showing today is more tech than legal, I would say. So for having said that, we can start the demo.
Perfect. Before we get into the demo, though, Arne, I'd just like to ask a quick question. Just a quick overview as to what are the 3 solutions we're adding on the CACEIS Connect Store today. I believe it's the MMR tool, sort of marketing document support, due diligence support, and as well as that, the Global Knowledge Hub. Could you maybe please give the audience just a quick overview as to what those are before we get into the the technical details?
You're right. Yes. So exactly. So we're lucky enough to be able to support the Connect Store with 3 different applications. One is the marketing material review tool, which I will show first. And that is our first AI-powered solution. So this is really AI at its core. It's using large language models to review marketing materials. So we had a lot of clients who came to us and said, okay, we produce dozens, hundreds, sometimes thousands of pieces of marketing material, and we want to use them in various jurisdictions around the globe. And for our legal and compliance teams, it's becoming more and more of an issue to review all of these, to stay on top of all the regulations. And that's why we built the marketing material review tool, which can automatically review marketing materials. And as I said, I will show that in more detail in the demo in a second. The second application for the Connect Store that we have is our Global Knowledge Hub. And this is basically where the knowledge and cross-border work that we did over the last decade is coming to a resource which makes it accessible to all of our clients. And it gives you information about cross-border marketing in more than 80 different jurisdictions. So this is a little bit less, I would say, technically advanced, and it's more on the knowledge and expertise side. And the third one is our due diligence tool, which is very popular. And clients use this to manage their vendor and delegates on a global scale. And this also has an AI element, which I will show you, which makes it easier for everyone who has to fill in a questionnaire and faster to fill in the questionnaire, because it's able to detect similarities and answers that were provided before.
Fantastic, Arne. Let's get into the demo. I think it's we can really bring that to life and the client value add to life through these demonstrations.
All right, great.
Let's get into it.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks. So what we see here is basically my browser, and it's the login screen. So I'm using a demo account here and to log into our platform. And what you see is a suite of services that we have already built. And 3 of those, as I said, will be live on the Connect Store as of today. The first one being the marketing material review tool. So what happens here is, as I mentioned briefly, we have trained a number of different large language models with our legal knowledge as investment funds lawyers, and to enable these large language models to review marketing materials. And to do that, a user simply has to click on Analyze Material and create a new case, upload the material, and I will find from my laptop a sample document that we can use. So I'm using this fact sheet from HSBC. It's for their Luxembourgish UCITS fund suite. However, what's important to know here is that, of course, for a webinar like this, I have to use a publicly available document. I cannot show you a presentation
client
from a
data.
private equity client.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So it has to be something publicly available. But it's important to note that the tool works with all types of marketing materials. So everything that qualifies as marketing material under the law can be run through the system. And in fact, we're seeing actually a variety of client use cases from large mutual fund managers who have hundreds. And in one case, we're actually currently talking to someone who produces 50,000 pieces of marketing material per year.
Wow.
So this is then a mass use case for documents like fact sheets, but we also have more boutique managers, private equity managers who create a lot less marketing material, but much more complex marketing material. So it can easily be a presentation of up to 100 slides in length with very complex trading strategies or private equity strategies. And they use the tool as well. So it's really a variety of users, from large mutual fund houses to boutique and very specialized fund managers. But as I said, for the purposes of today's webinar, I have to use a publicly available document. So I'm using this one from HSBC. And the user just drags and drops the marketing material into the application. And now very quickly, the tool has detected the language. So this step was very fast. So I'm not sure if the audience was even able to see it. But it does detect the language, which means that the tool works in different languages. We cover German, French, Italian, Spanish, and of course, English. And that enables asset managers to review marketing materials in a language that they don't even speak. So this is another, I would say, interesting point. We very often see with clients that they have a centralized legal and compliance team, which is responsible for global distribution compliance. And obviously, these teams cannot speak all of the languages of the globe. So by using the tool, they can review marketing materials in languages that they don't speak. The next step here is to give this case a name. So let's just call this Paris test case because we're here in beautiful Paris. And then the next thing is to select the jurisdiction. This is where I tell the tool where I want to use the marketing material. So let's say I want to use this document in the European Union. So I would select EU. As you can see, we currently cover the EU, including its most relevant member states. We have Switzerland, we have the UK, and we also have the US as a jurisdiction. So if I select the EU here, the next step is that I determine the investor type. Because, of course, the review changes depending on the investor type. If it's a retail investor category, then the tool becomes more strict in its approach. And here I determine the fund type. This is, as I said, is a UCITS fund. It's an Article 8 fund, which I can also instruct. And here I select the individual member states where I want to use this document. This is an optional step. So we have clients who say, okay, for us it's actually enough to ensure EU compliance. But most clients select this additional step to make sure that there are no additional requirements, in particular in specific member states. So let's say this is a document that I want to use in Austria and Belgium, so I can multi-select the countries here. And then we have the option also to do a consistency check. And now this is the lawyer in me. Basically, it's not only a legal requirement to be in compliance with the relevant rules and regulations, but it's also a legal requirement to be consistent with other fund documents. So you're not allowed to say something in your marketing material which is not in line with how you describe certain facts, also in, for example, the prospectus or in the PRIPS kit. So if I want to do this, I just toggle this to the right, and the tool gives me two further upload fields where I can then provide the corresponding documents. So in this case, it would be the prospectus of the HSBC UCITS fund, which, by the way, has 640 pages. So it shows us the power of the large language models, because if you think about, Scott, you had basically the task to review a 640-page document against a 5-page fact sheet and tell me that there are no inconsistencies. You can tell how much of a fun job that is. The second document here is the PRIPS kit. I'm just also providing the PRIPS kit here. And that already brings me to the last configuration point, which is the house rules. So this is something that is becoming more and more popular recently, because this allows a customization of the tool where we train the tool on specific house rules of a client. So clients, of course, they want the tool to review against the relevant rules and regulations and do the consistency check, but some clients also have internal guidance of what marketing material may include, may not include. They have maybe disclaimer libraries and stuff like this. In one case, we have a client whose in-house compendium consists of more than 800 different rules, depending really then on product type and also region where they want to use the marketing material. So what we do here is, as lawyers, we talk to our clients, we understand their house rules, and then we train the tool on these client-specific house rules. So that's then an additional loop of review where it looks at the house rules that a client has. I don't have the house rules of HSBC, so I cannot show you this at this point, but I think it's really worth mentioning because that brings the tool to a client-specific perspective. Now that I've configured the case, I basically submit it to review, and after a couple of seconds, we get this notification here, which informs us that the review per document takes anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes, because what's happening in the background is actually that the whole marketing material and the corresponding documents are sent back and forth between our application and the large language models thousands of times. And this adds up and takes 10 to 20 minutes per review. However, the tool is currently capable of reviewing up to 30 documents in parallel. So even if I uploaded another 29 now, the overall review time would not increase. And we are constantly working on increasing the scalability of the application. So once I've said yes here, you can see now that the status of the Paris test case is in analysis running. So this is now where the legal analysis actually happens. What I can do in the meantime, while the tool analyzes the documents that we uploaded, I can already show you the results of a similar case. So this is where I click on review, and this brings us to the results table. So currently we have one way of how we present the results, and it's basically this long-form legal review where the legal requirements are grouped here at the top into in these tabs. And then within each tab, we have one box per legal requirement. So for example, the European Union law consists of a little over 30 different legal requirements that the tool reviews. And each of them is represented by one of these boxes. And each box turns either red or green, depending on whether there was a finding or not. In the US, we also have the color yellow, because in the US, it's a much more principles-based approach and not so much rules-based as we are used to in the European Union. And this is how the tool basically goes through legal requirement by legal requirement. And just to read out one example, just to inform the audience of how the tool writes. So this, keep in mind, this is all written by AI. That means it's not a text block or it's not a fine search functionality. It's a full legal analysis which then returns these language outputs. And just to give you an example, so information about investor rights. The marketing material does not comply with Article 4.3 of the Cross-Border Distribution Regulation. It does not include a hyperlink to the summary of investor rights, nor does it specify the languages in which the summary is available. To ensure compliance, the marketing material must be amended to include a hyperlink to the summary of investor rights and an explicit statement of the languages in which the summary is available, or an implication of the language by specifying it for the summary. For example, the summary of investor rights is available in English at, and then insert hyperlink. So what a user can do here very simply is just copy paste this last sentence, put it into the marketing material, and be therefore compliant with this point. That's one way how we present the results. And this is pretty much what we learned from speaking to legal and compliance teams, how they currently operate. So they typically have checklists, and then they write these reports to confirm if something's missing. They would provide an information what is missing and why it's missing. Another way to present the results that we're currently working on, and which we will release in the next couple of weeks, is that we annotate directly in the document. So the tool goes into the document itself, and it places these little comment bubbles directly in the relevant sections. And also, what we of course show is only the red findings. We do not show anything green here. We also, it works in a way that it summarizes the results into actionable points. So this is a version which is actually mostly meant for less the legal and compliance teams, but more for the content creators of the marketing material. Because what we're seeing in real life is that people at the clients are pushing the use of the application to the beginning of the creation chain. So basically even into the portfolio management teams, because portfolio managers play quite an important role in creating the marketing, of course, because they are the ones who understand and run the investment policy. They are starting to use the tool as well, but they are less interested in the long-form legal report with the legal background information. So this annotated version is pretty much for them, so for this part of the client audience. But coming back to the application, once the user has reviewed the results, there are ways to interact with the results. You can either use comments here to provide internal comments or to leave an audit trail of why you, for example, decided to use a marketing material despite a red finding. Or alternatively, you can also use this button up here. And this then goes directly to our legal team. And clients use this to inform us if they disagree with the finding of the tool. And if we then as lawyers say, okay, the client is actually right, the tool did make a mistake, we would then immediately retrain the tool so that it doesn't make the same mistake twice. If we disagree with the client, we will have a normal classic legal argument with them and say why we think the tool is correct, and then hopefully come to a conclusion. So that's that. And then basically at the end, to conclude the workflow here, a user would typically say, okay, approve the document, which then marks it as approved for the entire team and can then be disseminated into the public domain. Or alternatively, they would reject the document, especially if there are lots of red findings. And once they have rejected the document, it shows as rejected in the list view. And the next step is then that the user updates the marketing material and uploads it again, but this time not as a new case, but basically to add it to the existing case. So I'll quickly show you how that looks, what that looks like. So I have a revised version of the marketing material basically here, and then I again drag and drop it into the application, but this time the application already knows the document and it jumps directly to the review message and it directly starts the review. So I didn't have to do the configuration again because it already knows the type of fund, the region where it is supposed to be used, etc. And you can see now that this has created a sub-entry, and this is a process of how clients create an audit trail from version to version to demonstrate to, for example, to an auditor, to a regulator, that they're actually doing marketing material reviews, and to basically demonstrate how many reviews it took them to finally approve the marketing material. Before we move on to the next application, very quickly also wanted to show you the language capabilities. So let's say I filter here and want to see documents which are in German. And again, this is my demo account. So these are test cases that I ran previously with the documents in the German language. And you can see here, this is a document, for example, from UBS. Again, of course, it's a publicly available document. And it's in German, it's for the Swiss market. So the tool reviewed this document against the relevant laws of Switzerland. And it presents the results in German. But if I'm not a German speaker, I can toggle this here to the right. And then I can also read the results in English. So it immediately translate it into English. And then finally, whenever necessary, it's always possible to download the results of the review if this is something, for example, that clients want to share with external parties or make available to an auditor or even to a regulator. That was a quick overview of our marketing material review tool. I think one important aspect here is a question that we get a lot, is this self-training. So the marketing material review tool is not self-training. That's very important. So what we use the intellectual capabilities of the large language models, which, by the way, also include capabilities to see charts and graphs, to see the location of text element within a presentation, etc. But we only use the intellectual capabilities. We do not use the knowledge that these tools bring out of the box. We have replaced the knowledge by our legal training, and we constantly train these tools also, so that whenever there's a legal update or the law has changed in a jurisdiction, we immediately go ahead and retrain the large language models so that they review under the most recent laws. But it's what we call, or not only us, but it's a general term in the industry, is called lawyer in the loop approach. Okay. So the lawyer is actually the one who's responsible for the training and the knowledge that the tool has, and we do not put it on autopilot.
Sounds good.
So that's the marketing material review tool. We launched it last year. It already has a little over 100 clients. These are all asset managers globally who are using the tool. And our prediction is that the review of marketing materials will be fully automated in a matter of 1 or 2 years. Going to the next application, this is our global knowledge hub. So this is a knowledge tool. And as I said, this is maybe a little bit less technically interesting, but it's more interesting on the legal side and the legal knowledge that went into this. As a law firm, we have advised clients on cross-border questions for over a decade. And a lot of the team are actually former in-house lawyers who have worked in distribution questions at large asset managers. And all of this knowledge went into the Global Knowledge Hub, and it continues to be updated by our legal team all of the time. And the question that the Knowledge Hub answers is always, okay, I have an investment fund and I want to find clients in a certain jurisdictions. So from a legal and compliance standpoint, what do I have to take into account? How can I do this? And let's say if I have an investment fund, let's say, for example, an Irish fund, and I want to find investors in Germany, then I click here on Germany and you can see that it provides a number of different options or scenarios to enter the content. So we have basically a situation of non-European funds, non-European fund managers with European funds, etc. But what I want to show, just to demonstrate today in the webinar, is very simply the UCITS passporting. So I click on UCITS passporting, and you can see here the way that the content is structured. it always follows the exact same order, which makes it easy for a user to find their way around. So if, let's say, you're tasked to say, okay, Scott, please tell me, how can I distribute our fund in Germany and in the US? Obviously, totally different jurisdictions, but the content will follow the exact same structure, so that it makes it very easy for you then to compare between how did I answer this question for Germany and how do I answer it for the US. Also, because this is all drafted by one and the same team, we always use the same words, we use the same language, and that makes it easier to understand if you compare country by country. I know that there are competing tools for this, and very often these are actually drafted by local teams in different jurisdictions, where the legal staff may use slightly different terminology, and then it's up to the user to decipher what is actually meant by this. And ours is really, I think that's a USP here for sure, that it's drafted by one and the same team, but for all of the jurisdictions. What we always have at the beginning is a little cheat sheet where we answer the most frequent questions in a very simple yes-no fashion. And then from here, the content evolves around the registration process. Where necessary, we use graphs like this to demonstrate how a process works. And it basically is written in a very practical way. So we really try to make it as user-friendly as possible and as little legal as possible. And that means that we even include practical points like, where do I have to pay the application fee to? What are the account details of the regulator? What's the amount that I have to transfer? Or we try to also be very specific on timelines. How long does it take to register a fund? How long does the internal legal work take to prepare for the registration? So really the questions that everybody has on top of mind when they go into such a process. And then from the registration process, it evolves around maintaining the registration process, dealing with shareholders or investors in a country, what happens in case of certain specific scenarios, for example, a merger scenario or a suspension of redemption. So very specific scenarios, but that's all covered here in the tool. And then from maintaining the registration status, it goes into who may actually do the marketing, what kind of license do I require to do the marketing in a specific country. And then we always finish at the end with questions about what is marketing, pre-marketing, private placement, and of course reverse solicitation, which is very often a relevant topic because people still try to use reverse solicitation as a marketing strategy, which we of course do not recommend. So this is an example of the content. If you were to print this out, it's always around 40 pages of content per country. And as I said, it's written and maintained by our own team of lawyers. And we also send out regular newsletters whenever an update happens. Every user is informed of that. Maybe to just show you one more jurisdiction real quick. So let's use a non-EU country, so the United Kingdom. Here we have two different types. Again, it's basically the registration for a public offering. And as I said, it follows the exact same structure. And again, where necessary, we support everything with informative charts and graphs. Or in the UK, also very relevant currently, we recently actually had a couple of roundtable sessions on this, is the OFR regime. But again, that's also covered here, of course. And again, in a very practical way. For example, we are showing here what the registration fee is to use the OFR in the UK, etc. So this is the Knowledge Hub. What also, maybe one important aspect here also is that because we are a law firm, the subscription to the Knowledge Hub is coupled with legal support. So if a user reads the content and still has a question, they can reach out to our legal team and we then answer these legal questions as part of the subscription. So we are not using this to generate billable hours. We're really using this to empower our clients to do cross-border distribution in 80 and more jurisdictions. Finally, another aspect here is the Q&A section. So since we are specialists in cross-border matters, we get hundreds of questions per year around how do certain things work in a particular country. And what we always do is we collect these questions and we then make them available to all Knowledge Hub users here. So this is basically the list, you could say, of the top 50 most relevant cross-border distribution questions and the corresponding answers. That concludes the demonstration of the Knowledge Hub. And again, so the Knowledge Hub is another application that is available on the Connect Store as of today, in addition with the marketing material review tool and the due diligence tool, which I will show as the last application for today. So the due diligence tool is an application that is meant to handle the entire vendor due diligence and ongoing due diligence process. Again, it's coming from client demand. So we, for example, as a law firm, we work a lot with distributors. We negotiate hundreds of distribution agreements every year for clients, again, in various jurisdictions. And as a technology provider, we were asked, can you not also help with the actual due diligence process whenever we onboard a new a new distributor? The next step for our client was to do the due diligence, and even, of course, before they sign the contract. So the question here was, can you build something? And that's why we built the due diligence tool. And I will again show how that works. Of course, it has a lot of functionality. It's currently being used by clients mostly across Europe, but we also have first US clients on this. And in Australia, interestingly, we have a very large client in Australia who uses the tool as well. So the counterparties and vendors who are on the platform are already very, very global. So the first thing, typically what a user would do is, let's say you're a fund manager and you want to use UBS in Switzerland as a distributor of your funds. Mm-hmm. So before you can do that, you need to do a due diligence on UBS, as you know. And to do that, you would basically say, okay, I want to add a new counterparty/vendor. We're always struggling a little bit with the right term. In the US, it's more vendor. I think here it's more counterparty. So we call it counterparty here in the tool. And I want to use, I want to work with the UBS and in Switzerland. So I select Switzerland from the list of countries. It's quite far down. Here it is. And then I asked the tool to find me the relevant company information. So this is connected to global registers around the globe, and it pulls the relevant trade data from these global registers. And you can see here, okay, there are a number of UBS entities in Switzerland, but of course, who we actually mean is UBS AG. So I will click here, and then it automatically finds the official name and the registration number of UBS AG. And I just say confirm, and thereby have added UBS to the system. Here I can also say what line of business are they actually working with us, because very often clients use a certain vendor for different things. But let's say, okay, this is, as I said, I want to use the UBS AG as a distributor, and then basically save this here. And now I've added UBS AG as a counterparty to the system. And now I need to also add a user so that the system knows, okay, who on the side of UBS is actually responsible for the due diligence process. So we have here test@test.com, which we've obviously deactivated. And I say yes here. And when I do this, what happens next is that the user test@test.com, or in our case, someone at UBS, will receive an email from the system and basically with an invitation to go to the system and start the due diligence process. So I click send invite here. We are really here, it's also about details. So a little detail here, for example, is that this email to UBS AG does not go out immediately. Mm-hmm. The system basically waits for 1 hour, because what we've seen in the past is, oops, I've already invited 20 people at UBS and they were actually the wrong group. Can I still stop that? And this is possible to stop it. That's why the system basically waits for 1 hour until it sends. This is just lessons learned from day-to-day life. So now that I've invited UBS AG, they will basically go to the platform and actually I forgot one step. So I've created UBS AG as an account, but I now also need to assign to them the relevant questionnaire. This is basically the questionnaire that I want them to answer. And this is an interesting point. Our tool is completely flexible. So we do not dictate templates that users have to use for the due diligence process. It's fully customizable. In fact, there's a questionnaire editor in the tool where our clients design their own questionnaires. Because as we have learned, the industry simply cannot agree on a due diligence template. And every client has slightly different requirements for their due diligence process. So nice as it would be to have one and the same due diligence questionnaire across the globe, ideally even, is simply not possible. So clients create their own questionnaires, and let's say, in this case, I want to send the distributor questionnaire 2025 to UBS. Then I select UBS here. This is the recently added bank. The assignment date, and I can also say set a certain due date by which I want them to respond to this, and the system will then automatically chase them, etc. So now I've assigned this questionnaire to UBS AG, and I think this is a good point in time to quickly show you what the receiving end of this looks like. So if I switch the view here, and I'm now using a different browser, and here, as you can see, now I'm logged in as my colleague Mathilde, who, in the case of this example, works for a distributor called Northbridge Global Trade Limited. So let's say Northbridge has received a questionnaire through the system, and they basically see it like this. It's an inbox, and they see, okay, that's a new questionnaire with the status new. And what I have to do now is I have to complete this questionnaire. And this is where the AI element comes in that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. So this, let's say I'm Northbridge and I'm a big fund distributor. That means I get dozens of due diligence questionnaires per day because every fund manager wants to work with me. So I have to get all of these requests and I have to fill in all of these requests, which takes a lot of time and is just generally a big effort to do. At the same time, I have, of course, answered questionnaires in the past, and I would like the tool to understand, okay, you already have answered this question yesterday. Why not use the same answer to answer today's questionnaire? And that's the idea of our autofill tool. So again, we're using large language models here, which create a similarity score between questions. So let's say I, as Northbridge, receive a questionnaire from distributor A. I fill it in, and then I get a questionnaire from distributor B. Distributor B uses a different formulation. They formulate the questions differently. Also, the whole structure of the questionnaire may be very different. But at the end of the day, what they're asking is more or less the same that fund manager A has asked me yesterday. So by using AI, we are able to detect the similarities between questions that have been asked, and then pull the corresponding answer so that I don't have to type the answer again. And just to quickly show you, so I see we're almost running out of time already. So this is how this works. If I click on autofill, it pulls the information that I have provided previously, but the questions may have been asked in a totally different way, and a different wording may have been used. Also, the pulled questions can be wrong. So, for example, this could be outdated. Maybe we have moved from 12 Rue du Fort Vallée to 13, and I can of course overwrite what the tool has pulled. By the way, when answering the questions automatically, it also pulls the corresponding data and documents which have been provided in the first run. So I will go through this question to this autofill process section by section. And as you can see here by me just doing this and basically answering all the questions for itself, I'm already saving a lot of time. We see that our clients save anywhere between 60 to 80% of time in filling in the questionnaires, which of course benefits the whole value chain, because a happy fund distributor is also great news for the fund manager who wants to work with them. So once I've done this, I can then in the end just submit the questionnaire, and I'm done with the process on my side as Northbridge Global Trade Fund Distribution. I think we're kind of nearing the end of the presentation, so there is much more to show in the due diligence tool, but I think this is a good point for me to stop and see if we have any questions. Before I do that, I just wanted to quickly recap. So 3 new applications on the Connect Store. One is the marketing material review tool, which reviews marketing materials automatically against the rules of the most important jurisdictions around the globe. We have the Global Knowledge Hub, which is our knowledge base, drafted and maintained by investment fund lawyers to help clients with cross-border distribution in 80 and more jurisdictions. And the due diligence service, which handles the whole due diligence process and uses large language models to autofill answers so that I don't have to type an answer again that I have already given previously.
Fantastic. Thank you, Arne, for that whistle-stop tour through all of the ZEIDLER Group tools. Tools that really open up global sort of fund distribution corridors, which is fantastic, and we can clearly see the sort of value add there with all of those three solutions. So I wondered if there's any questions that have come through the chat. I can see one question on the screen now. So, okay, Arne, so a client is convinced, they'd like to sign up, they'd like to subscribe. What does an onboarding look like? How easy is that with you guys?
Yes, so that depends, of course, a little bit on the application. But the good news is, generally speaking, onboarding is either non-existent or very brief.
Yep.
So for the marketing material review tool, it basically is usable out of the box. So clients can immediately start uploading documents into the marketing material review tool. But if someone wants to use the house rules, remember that's where we customize the review to specific requirements of a client. Then the onboarding takes anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, depending, of course, also on the complexity of the house rules and how many house rules a client actually has. For the Knowledge Hub, there's literally no onboarding. And for the due diligence tool, again, very little onboarding. One thing that, of course, needs to be done is the creation of questionnaires. That is something that clients do themselves, so I don't really consider that part of the onboarding, but sometimes they want help from us, and then we help them to create the questionnaires. And there's one more aspect with the due diligence tool. We have a lot of clients who switch over to us either from a purely manual process or from another provider. And that, of course, creates the question, let's say I did already a due diligence on my vendors in March, now switch over to ZEIDLER. I don't want to bombard them with yet another questionnaire simply because I've switched the provider. So we help clients to migrate the existing due diligence data onto the platform. And if someone wants us to do that, then there is an onboarding process which can take between 1 and 2 months, depending again on the amount of data and the complexity of the data. So it ranges between absolutely 0 to maybe 2 months in onboarding time.
That sounds good, Arne. It sounds like you're there to help support the client through the transition, regardless of where they're coming from or if they're starting from afresh. So, I just had a question regarding the AI that you guys use. It's AI. It's in control. It's in the hands of lawyers, and it's trained by lawyers. We talked a bit about house rules there. Will the models that I'm using get to know me and get to know me as a firm the more I use it? And will that make things more efficient and more seamless and more bespoke in a way? Yeah. That's a question.
Yeah, that's a great question because so the answer is basically twofold. The out-of-the-box version will not to get to know you as a client. Yeah. Because no matter, let's say I'm HSBC and I upload 100 documents. It does not learn from your documents because all the learning really comes from us. But what happens is we as lawyers, we learn from your document, just like in the old-fashioned legal client and lawyer relationship. So we know, okay, these are HSBC's documents, and this is, for example, a certain phrase that HSBC uses a lot. And we will then see and ensure that the tool understands this phrase, for example, in the right way. Also, if the legal team from, let's say, HSBC has feedback to us, we will, of course, learn from that feedback as lawyers, and if necessary, we will retrain the tool accordingly. So there is a learning effect, but it's controlled by humans. The other point is the house rules. The house rules is really where we teach the tool specifically on your own rules, and that's where it gets to know you very well. Yes. But again, through our lens and through our control.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Arne. There's a question again. What efficiency gains can clients expect from using some of these tools?
Yes, so I think, again, starting with the marketing material review tool, this simply brings down the review time for a piece of marketing material. I mean, and the efficiency gains are just tremendous. I mean, it depends, of course. I mean, for a fact sheet, we hear anything from compliance experts looking at a fact sheet maybe in 30 minutes to sometimes takes an hour because maybe new or more complex. But in the case of private equity or even hedge fund presentations, sometimes lawyers sit there for up to 8 hours to review such a piece of marketing material. Imagine it's a 100-page presentation about a hedge fund. It takes time to review this. So you can see basically we're coming down from 8 hours of lawyers' time to 20 minutes of machine time, and then maybe another 20 minutes or so to go through the results to see if I, as a lawyer, agree with them or not. So the gains here are really, really significant. Plus, what we're also learning is actually some clients being very transparent with us and saying, now that we use the tool, we can look at more stuff than we looked before. So they're basically admitting, more or less unofficially or officially, that they have no time to review everything that they get on their desk and that they only can do spot checks. And this allows them to basically raise the bar and really look at everything. And as it comes to the other applications, I mean, the Knowledge Hub, of course, it brings efficiency gains because there's only one law firm you need to talk to. And finally, the due diligence tool, with the autofill function I already mentioned, it brings down the time to fill in a questionnaire by anywhere between 60 to 80%.
Cool. Really reducing the manual burdens, opening up space and time for deeper analysis. I think that the gains there are really clear to see. So I think time is almost up. I think I've got one more question regarding, who do you expect to use these tools? Who's actually logging in behind the computer and uploading documents? What does the day in the life of that person look like, and who are your most frequent users that use your tools?
So I mean, our client base ranges really from asset managers, but we also have more third-party management companies. So it's a mix of clients.
Yep.
And within the client, mostly it's the legal and compliance teams who are basically on the other side of the screen. But what we're seeing increasingly, as I mentioned before, also, for example, in the context of the marketing material review tool, that it moves further ahead in the value chain and goes into the basically area of content creation, even portfolio management, where in the case of the marketing material review tool, people upload documents to ensure that everything is compliant before it even goes to the legal and compliance team. So the user base is, I would say, 80% still legal and compliance teams, but what we're seeing increasingly, specifically with the marketing material review tool, is that it also touches into the marketing and sales and even portfolio management side of an asset manager.
Right. So across the organization, across the value chain, it's really, really great to see. So I think we're just about up on time today for this CACEIS Talk series on the Connect Store. Really glad to add you as another partner to the CACEIS Connect Store as a new partner. So thank you very much for joining the ecosystem.
Thank you.
It's clear to see today through the demonstration that the tools are quite simple. It's quite plug and play, ready to go, quite effective in terms of adding value to the client. In terms of we talked there about reducing manual burdens, opening up time and space for deeper analysis. And I think the final point to say is that these solutions are live today on OLIS, and I encourage you as the client to sort of log in, have a look on the Connect Store, investigate this solution, and if you're interested, contact directly, which you're able to find on the CACEIS Connect Store webpage, or reach out to your relationship manager and a client support team there to learn more. And we're happy to facilitate an introduction and a demonstration with Arne and his team at ZEIDLER Group. So with that, thank you very much for your attention today. It's been a pleasure presenting
Thank you, Scott.
These 3 new tools on the CACEIS Connect Store. And we're really here to support you, the client, with extra value-added solutions. So thank you very much for your time, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.